You may be old enough to remember November 2020 when then Prime Minister Boris Johnson claimed a post-Brexit trade deal with Canada would go even further in meeting the needs of our economy. Well, guess what?
The government has walked away from trade talks with Canada tonight over the imposition of hefty tariffs or taxes that Canada is introducing on some British exports, including cars and cheese.
It all comes after Brexit, where the UK could go around the world and work up these agreements. And after leaving the UK, there was a rollover of the EU deal for the UK, but with a twist in a couple of sectors, the dairy sector and the car industry. That rollover came with a time limit, and that time, you guessed it, has run out, and Canada has decided not to extend it further. And so that means big tariffs, extra taxes on cheese and cars that the UK is selling to Canada. Canada would like to sell us its beef and chicken, chlorinated as far as the chicken is concerned in terms of how it's washed, and the beef hormone fed. There is no appetite in the UK for that. So what has happened here is, rather than things getting better, trading conditions between the two countries advancing, which is the whole point of free trade negotiations, they've actually got worse. They haven't stayed the same, they have got worse.
It gets better.
With others queuing up to join CPTPP, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has ensured the UK got in there first. The deal offers possibilities for our whole country, from distilleries in Dorset to AI pioneers in Wales, to car park manufacturers in Northern Ireland, to digital forensic experts in Scotland. It is an investment in a brighter future.
Imagine the shock for Lord Cameron when he finds out that on the government's own statistics of the potential boost to the UK economy from CPTPP membership, Britain's GDP will see an increase of just £1.8 billion over the next decade. To give that some context,
the Centre for Economic Reform claims the government has lost out on £40 billion in taxes because of the damage done to the country's output by leaving the European Union.
In fact, on the government's own figures on this trade deal, in a decade, we're likely to see an increase in our wealth of just 0.08%. On the other side of the balance sheet, the loss of GDP due to Brexit and exiting the EU single market is put conservatively by the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility at a staggering 4% of GDP by 2030. That's at least 50 times greater. And then there was that trade deal with New Zealand.
British farmers have reacted with shock to the terms of a new free trade deal with New Zealand.
The deal will see Kiwi meat imported without tariffs, and farmers in the UK say they get nothing in return.
A world away from rejoicing Kiwi farmers, their Wally-wearing counterparts feel as though they are the sacrificial lambs of the free trade deal.
We're not competing on a level playing field. It's us surrendering to you, New Zealanders, and giving you a great deal, and we're getting nothing out of it.
The impact on Britain's economy is expected to be negligible.
And let's not forget the trade deal with Australia. On that one, listen to former Environment Secretary George Eustace addressing the House of Commons on just how good it was.
I was in the Cabinet in 2021, and I was in this Cabinet subcommittee that argued over the Australian trade deal. For yes, there were deep arguments and differences over how we should approach this. But since I now enjoy the freedom of the backbenches, I no longer have to put such a positive gloss on what was agreed. The first step is to recognise that the Australia trade deal is not actually a very good deal for the UK. The truth of the matter is that the UK gave away far too much for far too little in return.
And hold on to your seats for this next bit. We've secured new trade deals with over 70 countries since 2016. That's over £800 billion worth of new global trade, the Conservative Party has triumphantly tweeted. That tweet was slammed by the official statistics watchdog. Most of these deals were simply rolled over from existing EU agreements following Brexit. The figure refers to the total value of trade between the UK and countries it has agreed trade deals with, not the value that they add. So saying these trade deals are worth over £800 billion in new global trade was just complete bollocks. In fact, the Conservative government is likely the first one in history to negotiate a trade deal which actually involves walling itself off from a trading bloc made up of its nearest neighbours. making it harder both to sell your stuff and buy their stuff. Some might call it economic lunacy. And the government's trying to sell this as a win to the public. And it's about to get even worse.
The price you pay for many fresh fruits and vegetables is about to go up. Post-Brexit rules will finally start to come into force from next week, which will see costly checks imposed on imports from Europe. And trade bodies have told ITV News that will see price increases right across the UK.